As a man who plays Football Manager quite a lot, I've used some strange tactics in my time, but today I'm going to be trying out some tactics that I've seen from other creators who I just thought, how does that work? For instance, one of them was sent to me by my good friend Stinger, who you might have known already from YouTube. I'll leave a link to him, and he's actually done a video on this which explains a little bit more, but this, as you look at it, looks fine, and then you realize it has two liberos and an inverted fullback on either side. How does that work? So today we're going to test 5 different tactics, and I'm even going to build a very strange tactic that I've seen work before on Football Manager to see how it all pans out. So this one by Stinger has a sister tactic too, which is a more attacking tactic. And so this is the original with the advanced forward, 2 false nines, 2 liberos. We are going to try it with Atalanta this season. I think Atalanta is always a good one because the Serie A is full of fantastic teams and it's going to be difficult to, beat the likes of Inter and AC Milan. So it's a real test, I think, for this one. But if we go to Liverpool, I'm also going to run its sister tactic, which is far more attacking. Now, the very subtle changes that Stinger has implied, and you can see it in his video, is a Pulcher up front instead of the advanced forward, and it's mainly the 2 changes are the Mazzalas. On the Atalanta one, it was 2 Carraleros. These are 2 more far attacking players, which is the reason why I've chosen Liverpool to test them with. Now, it obviously goes without saying, let's not be knobheads about this. Like, these tactics aren't going to work with every single team, and where these tactics have been tested by the creators themselves, and they've probably worked for the set teams, like, it's not to say that they're going to work for when I test them, but I'm just really enjoying the creativity that the community is putting together. Like, I never would have thought of doing 2 liberos at the back with 2 inverted fullbacks and 2 false nines. It's just something that my brain is not as good as Stinger's and all of these creators to come up with these fantastic ideas. I'm just the madman who wants to try them. Now, the next tactic is actually the reason why I'm doing this video in the first place, and it's thanks to a creator called Zapulon, who I believe is Bulgarian. I think it says he's based in Bulgaria, but apologies, my friend, if you're not. Now, he has a Twitch, he has a YouTube. I definitely implore you, as well as all the other creators on this video, to go and watch, because if you like mad tactics like me, this is your guy, because I found this guy's channel about a month ago, and there's a few videos on here that really caught my eye. So the one we're going to be testing is the 5-2s. We're going to be trying that one out. However, like, he's also done a defenderless one, so there's no defenders, and he's also done midfielderless, which both of them absolutely bonkers, and this guy's kind of like the king of weird and wonderful tactics. You can see throughout his channel, there's loads of different ones that he explores and experiments with. Now, as I mentioned, we're going to be trying out the 5-2s, and basically it's 5-2s because it's 5 different lines of play that you can play in a tactical grid, and there's 2 players on each of those ones. And on the video where he showcased this, he tried out loads of different types of formation until he eventually got to this one, and this is the one that we're going to be trying today with Atletico Madrid. And to be honest, the teams, I didn't really think too much about it. I just want to see what it's like with clubs that have the players for that, and I don't want it to be the Real Madrids or the Manchester Cities. Let's see if we can test these with teams just below that elite level. So we're going for Atletico Madrid, and as you can see, it's got 2 centre defenders on stopper, both of them, with 2 halfbacks in front, 2 wingers on the next line, 2 shadow strikers, and 2 pressing forwards on support. Now, all of the instructions you can see are going to be slightly different for each different tactic because it's going to try and suit this, but this one I think is the most balmy because it has shorter and slightly lower. And I will be obviously linking all of the tactics down below, or where you can at least watch the video to then appreciate the guys who are creating the videos talents at making their video about their tactic. They're going to be explaining it a lot better than what I am. I'm just here to test it, but I'm just showcasing this one just because it's absolutely balmy. But that is the next tactic we're going to be looking at. Now, the next one I came across on Twitter, or X, and Andrew, or Gib, as a lot of you guys might know him from TikTok or YouTube. Again, this guy's a creator. Posted his save in Japan, I believe, and it looked like this. The tactic that he was using looked absolutely mental, and it's almost a 4-2-2-2, but there's a shadow striker and a complete forward on support, so it's kind of a 4-2-2-1-1. And I was really intrigued by it, and that's the one that I'm going to try with Gladbach, which is arguably the lowest team rank that we've got here, but the Bundesliga is one of those ones where it's like, you can kind of get away with that. And finally, before I decide to build my own weird and wonderful tactic, the last one that we're going to be looking at that was created by somebody else is a tactic that FM Scout actually posted recently, and again, the link to that video will be underneath, which was a nap tactic, and it's very similar to tactics I've used in the past, but this time it's 5 at the back with 1 lone midfielder, and we got 3 attacking midfielders on attack and an advanced forward. And again, this one just looks like it should not work, but I bet it does because Nap made it, and he's a bit of a genius. Now, finally, we're going to have a bit of fun, and I'm going to build my own weird and wonderful tactic and see how they all compare. We're all in the same, database here. We're all in the same save game file here, so chances are one of them might come up against each other in, a European Cup competition, but I've put them in 6 different leagues for now when we simulate a season to see how they do. But I've chose to go with Sporting because I think it's quite fun with the fact that they're the 3rd favourites at the start of FM, with Benfica and Porto obviously being 2 powerhouses, but you can kind of get away with building a very unique tactic and see how they do with Sporting. I think Stinger used Sporting for his one, but I went with Liverpool and Atalanta for his to give it something a little bit different. So I've got a tactic shape in mind, and I'm very curious as to whether you've seen this shape before. So it looks like that, and you think, what? That should never work. But the reason why I have seen it work is because of these roles here. The inverted wingback on defend or inverted wingback on support. Let's do defend for now because they sit really narrow and sit alongside your defensive midfielder, for instance, and provide a little bit of support there. So we know with Sporting, we've got Gyökeres, and Gyökeres is a fantastic striker on this game. We can give him a pressing forward on attack, and he's absolutely phenomenal in that role. The other strikers that they have aren't as good. They've got the likes of Paulinho, but let's keep it with a DLF. And the 3 behind, I mean, let's go with an attacking midfielder either side and a shadow striker in the middle, because I do love a good shadow striker. Now, these ones I want to go a little bit wide. We've got to give it a bit of width, I guess, and tackle harder. So let's do that on either side, I think. Let's do that. We'll keep the 2 in the middle central. But I think the idea of why people have used this tactic and it works in the past is because you just overload their defense with just so many players. Now, the guy that's sat in here, the poor bloke who's going to be in the midfield by himself, we just want him to be holding position, and I think that's absolutely fine. We don't really want him to take any risks, so I think that is how we want it to be. So Sporting got some good defenders. Let's go ball playing, but I don't want them to trigger press because they're in a lot of help elsewhere, so let's make sure that they don't go diving in. But what we do want is for when the inverted wing back go into midfield, we can tackle harder, win the ball back. So that's the setup, but I don't want it to be too attacking. Let's go with balanced in terms of the mentality. We've got no width, really, so we might as well stay fairly narrow. Let's take off passing. I know it sounds stupid, but underlapping, just to encourage those defenders to go central, might help us out a little bit. Let's take off passing the space. Let's go shorter pass directness, but slightly higher. We got Gyökeres, he's quite good in the air, but let's stick with low crosses because I think we're going to have a lot of byline cutbacks with the amount of players that we've got, and I think that's going to work quite well for us. Run out defense, we've got a lot of players who are quite tricky on the ball, so let's keep that. In transition, we counter press and counter, distribute the ball quickly. I'm going to take that off, but I'm going to press to roll it out and see what happens there. I want a much higher defense, and the trick with why some of these weird tactics work is you can press the team so high up with a much higher defensive line, and you're stepping up. I'm going to keep this as well, that there's almost not too much of a gap in terms of here. I'm going to get stuck in as well. When you look at here and you think, oh, that's never going to work because there's too much space in there, you're going to get overloaded. By pressing the defensive line up, as far as I'm aware, my very little understanding of being a Football Manager tactician is the reason why it works, because there's then not much of a gap in there anyway, and your defense and your defensive midfielder means there's 5 of you in there to squash out anything that's going on. Okay, so I've got my tactics set up. I've got the other 4 or 5 tactics set up. I'm going to make myself unsackable on each of them, which is the reason why we've got the editor out, but I'm going to just simply go on holiday using the match tactics all the way to the end of June, or the start of June, sorry, the end of the season next year, to see what happens for each of these teams. Not going to touch anything else. Okay, I've had my lunch. Second place. Now, I thought this was going to go one or two ways. I thought it would be down in like 4th or 5th, or I thought we were going to absolutely walk the league. I did not expect it to be neither of them. They finished in second place. All right, so we'll have a brief look. They lost 4 games, drew 6, scored the second highest amount there with 84. Benfica won the league, of course, but I did see Victor Gyökeres had a lot of goals. He was actually the league's top scorer by a mile as well with 32. And a very high average rating and the most man of the matches, which is great to see. 32 goals in just 31 games with 8 assists. Well, I mean, this tactic obviously was one of those ones where it's like very heavy in attacking, so you do expect to score a lot of goals. Didn't expect it to be just the same player to score a lot of goals, but hey, there we go. In other competitions, runners-up in the Allianz Cup, they lost 4-0 to Benfica, so you can kind of see what this tactic is about, right? Real Madrid in the Europa League. If you're playing against a team that's almost as good as quality or very good, a little bit better, this tactic probably isn't for you. But if you're in a league where you are dominating and you just want to score a lot of fun goals, this might be one to try out. Now, I'm pulling out the O2D Classic to show you why I think this tactic works really well, because you can see our setup here. Now, Pedro Gonçalves has the ball in this 2-0 win. Gyökeres is here, but there's only 4 defenders, 2 kind of like center defense midfielders, but they're just being so overrun because the defense midfielders they're not smart enough to track back. So you'll see as the ball gets like played out to the wing there with Pedro Gonçalves, now they're man marking 4v4, and these 2 players are kind of just like, you're in no man's land once this ball goes into the box with a good cross. So defensively as well, if the ball does get played out, there's 2 players there, plus a third who does have a man. So you only really have 1 man free here if you manage to play the ball out, where a counter-attack could potentially work, where you can then become the overload. And even then, Inacio is there to break up the play. So when the ball comes firing in, Gyökeres wins a big header in off the post because he's a big, tall, strong man. And again, look, there's 4 players in and around that ball, with 4 players being like marking. And it's man to man then. It's whoever wants it more. Okay, let's have a look at Stingers then. How did that do with Atalanta? 8th place. So not as good as what I've seen Stinger actually do with both Atalanta and Sporting. In fact, he actually used. But again, this tactic could be the reason why this tactic... Juve and Lazio finished even lower. And Napoli. What the hell happened in this? Sassuolo, Bologna, Fiorentina, Torino... That's a mental season, by the way. Like, I've never seen such a strange Italian season, but that's why I love the Italian league, by the way, and Football Manager, because there's so many good teams. But as I was saying, this tactic, I think, is one of those ones where if you play it week by week and not simulate, you're going to get a much better result. And I think Stinger's video proved that. When you was actually using the tactic, it looked beautiful and the liberos worked perfectly. But simulating across the season, so many things can be different and change, obviously, who they play in the right positions. Because if I went quick pick with best 11 now, it's been playing Lookman, Di Ketelaere and Scamacca up front, which, to be fair, yeah, I would probably go along with that with Darun and Ederson. Yeah, that kind of makes sense. But I might not have made that choice while I was going through. And I think this tactic would heavily rely on personnel. But I really think, like watching some of the goals back, beautiful football. In the Europa League, they were knocked out by Arsenal, so that's 2 big clubs that have gone down to Europa League and ruined our chances of winning silverware there. And the semi-final by Juventus in the Coppa Italia, unfortunately. Oh, it's a closer one for Liverpool, though, with this tactic. And that's what makes me think, I did think Liverpool would be really good with this. Now, Manchester City are a different beast in themselves. They won the league by 3 points there. Just the difference was 1 loss. Probably to Brighton. Looks like Brighton managed to work out this tactic quite well. But yeah, as we can see there, Liverpool finished in 2nd place. Mo Salah got 20 goals. I think when I did the best 11, Mo Salah tended to go up front in this, in the poacher role, which is interesting. And he has done there. I probably wouldn't have done that. I would Like, if I did this throughout, like, what I'm saying is obviously the week-for-week thing. I would probably have played Salah in that false 9 because he can drop down. He's better once you give him the ball. And I would probably have gone with somebody like Darwin Nunez or Diogo Jota in that striker role. And to be fair, Hakpo's quite a good option in the false 9 because he's good passing ability. Yeah, I think it's kind of set out. The rest of it is how I would have probably seen it. Definitely, I wouldn't have played Trent down there. A lot of people probably would have played Trent there. No, I think the Regis is actually quite good for that, to be fair, because he's better on the ball, isn't he? But hey, Liverpool second place in the league. Competitions, they were runners-up of the Carabao Cup, knocked out by Man City in the FA Cup. And again, the Europa League. This must be the most... By Inter. This must be the most stacked Europa League. Who won the Champions League then? Some absolute bums won the Champions League by the looks of it, but we'll have to take a look at that. But Mo Salah got 20 goals throughout the season. So, yeah, I absolutely love Stinger's video on this. I love Stinger's ideas on this. You got to check it out and see, because he's done it justice. This hasn't, unfortunately, but I had a lot of fun looking at it anyway. Now, again, my very astute tactical knowledge, nowhere near as good as Stinger's when he looks at this and explains it a little bit more, but from what he said and my understanding, because the Liverpool one is the more attacking with the Mazalas on attack, when you are on attack, this is what your attack starts to look like. So you can see Jota's there, he's from the false 9, but Thiago, who is Mazala on attack, is out there doubling up on the right back. Same on this side, Hakpo, who I think is a false 9, is dropped out to the wings. They will do that even as a false 9. But look who's also there. Szoboszlai, who is a Mazala on attack. Whereas Konate, who has the ball now, in the Atalanta version with the 2 Carraleros, you're going to tend to see the Carraleros in this space here, which can be a good thing, can be a bad thing, depending on how good they are and whether they retrieve the ball in good enough space or not. The Regista sits, of course, the Trent Alexander-Arnold role there, and you've got the poacher next to the Sassy up front, which is Mo Salah. So, as you can see, this goal plays out, goes back to Gomez across to Virgil van Dijk, who is a libero. They've stepped up, so right now, you can see the 2 inverted fullbacks, Gomez and Robertson. This goal is a perfect example of that when you're not looking at actually what's happening on the ball, because Mo Salah's in, he's about to score. But Virgil van Dijk and Konate in the libero roles, they've stepped up and complement then Trent Alexander-Arnold in the Regista role to make a 3 across the midfield. So you know, if the ball gets played out to Mudryk for Chelsea, who is a winger, Konate is the one who goes to defend him and not Gomez, who would naturally, you'd think, would be the guy to attack the winger, who would be the fullback. No, it's actually the liberos. That's why I like this tactic. I think it gives a different spin on it. It's really good. Mo Salah, of course, picks up the ball in the poacher role with good movement and scores. Okay, Gibbs Gladbach tactic. Didn't do as well as I'd hoped. 8th place, just finishing behind Eintracht Frankfurt there, and looks like at the end of the season they dropped off, but it was okay at some points, up to 5th place, where Freiburg is sat, just dropped off. I did kind of think with this, it's probably very much player-based, whether this works or not. You're probably going to need to have the best team in there, which is why I actually wanted to try it with a team like Gladbach, who are predicted to finish in 11th. So this is overachieving in ways with Gladbach. They don't have the best team right now, but if you look best 11 pick, that midfield with the crossover, I bet if you got all of those looking green, but that was lovely. They got some quality players for the role though, which is the reason why I did pick them, and especially Kone, who I think is a really good Mazala, but he's good on the ball as well. Neuhaus is another option, which, you know, he's very underrated, I think, on the game, to be fair. He's good technical abilities, but they had a lot of centre midfielders, which is the reason why I picked them. I think with a better striker, it might have done better, because Plie is okay, not amazing. Like, good composure, okay off the ball, but no real pace about him, but good passing ability, which is the reason why I thought, with the complete forward on support, it might help. Maybe a better shallow striker, because Frollo is fraud, if anything. A better shallow striker potentially could be really good. The fullbacks I'm interested in, though. Doesn't look like Joe Scally even scored a goal, but he kind of had a good average rating. So maybe we can see assists come from Luca Netz and Scally. There we go. That's what I was hoping to see, is the two fullbacks providing a lot of assists. I reckon if with do you know what? I really think I've really made these tactics not look as good as what they potentially are. If you have the right players, I guess with any tactic, but if you have some quality fullbacks and a decent shadow striker with this tactic, oh, I bet you score a lot of goals. But anyway, competitions, they were knocked down the second round by Holstein Kiel, which is not amazing. Okay, but it's not bad. Because they were predicted to finish in 11th place is actually a bit of an overachievement. What isn't an overachievement is Atletico finishing in 11th place. That's terrible. That's my good friend Zach Ballon's tactic there with the 2-2-2s. Again, it's just a silly tactic. I kind of expected this to not work. He used Manchester City and Real Madrid when he was doing it, where it was successful. So might give you a bit of an understanding as to why it was slightly more successful. Does score a lot of goals. I can see there's a lot of goals in the team. Probably conceding a lot too. Now, semi-final of the Super... Oh, that's where they come in. But the third round there, that's not great. Oh, the Champions League, by the way, Salzburg reached the final. I can't believe that. That's mental. We are definitely going to be checking that in a sec. We've got one more team to look at. But La Liga, yeah, that's... kind of dominated there by the two you'd expect. I was hoping we could be up there. No, turns out we're not up there at all. But ladies and gentlemen, I have saved the best till last, because Lens, who I did not make a big deal out of it being Lens, with the nap tactic, won the French league. Yeah. What? How do they do that? I mean, you're always relying on PSG having a bad season. That's one thing I've always thought when you do these, if you do it in the French league, is anything's possible if PSG have a bad season. We beat them as well in one of the games. We lost against them 5-1 when we travelled there, but we just didn't draw as many as what they did. We won by just having an extra win. And you can't deny it that this tactic has shocked you. I know you're sat there going, huh. Well, I'll be damned. El Yawahi, the youngster, 21 years of age, getting 21 goals. And remember, this tactic looks like this. So he played a lone striker with 3 attacking midfielders in behind him with a roaming playmaker and nobody there else to support. Now, the tactic is much higher defensively, stepping up, and it's very attacking. So he isn't going to be isolated there too much, because in gameplay, these are going to be right up there with him. But I am still shocked by that. The 11th round, they were knocked out by a terrible team by the looks of it. But still, to win the French league is absolutely outstanding. They were also in the Champions League, by the way, and didn't quite make it. But yeah, we'll quick pick best 11, so you can kind of see the players that were used in there. I bet you don't know a lot of them. Now, the reason why I did pick Lens, by the way, or Lens, is because they've got 3 really good centre-backs. And I thought that's the good team to use with this 5 at the back. I'm really shocked by this one. I am actually shocked. I've watched the video where FM Scout talk about it, and I'm still shocked by it. Again, let's look at the shape of this tactic and see why it was so good. Right, we're playing in the final game of the season now. I think the title was on the line with this, and it's 0-0. We needed to score a goal, funny enough. You can see El Yawahi is up front there, and he's got 2 of the 3 attacking midfielders near him, and we've had a player sent off. So right now, we are down to 10 men, but we've got our back 5 along there and our roaming playmaker in there. We're a player down right now. The ball is played out to the left-hand side of the complete wing-back, and then it's played into the roaming playmaker. So this seems like it's very crucial to have a roaming playmaker who can find space. A smart decision maker, somebody who's good off the ball, and then, of course, a good passer. He finds the run of Fulgini, who just does the rest, really. But I think the setup of it, it's so direct that it's not a lot of, like, control and possession. And I'd be surprised, actually, if we looked on this, on the statistics, whether the possession, most goals, 108. Look at that, absolutely dominated. I bet the possession, they're nowhere near. Yeah. Nowhere near. 12th place with 44%. You're giving up a lot of possession with this. But my God, it works. We've got to check, though. We've got to see the Champions League. So Atletico Madrid and Lens both went through as top of the group lot. So That ain't bad at all. But Arsenal were knocked out in the group of death by the looks of it. Milan and Bayern Munich there. Celtic and Marseille knocked out Real Madrid. And Napoli. What? That's like upside down, surely. That's absolutely mental to me. Dortmund and Barcelona went through quite easily. Man United and PSG knocked out Sociedad and Rangers. Inter was knocked out by the Salzburg, who then went through and won the whole thing. I can't believe this. So Salzburg knocked out Atletico Madrid. Newcastle knocked out Lens at that point. The quarterfinal, Salzburg knocked out Lazio. They've done exceptionally well here. Which means the semi-final, they must have knocked out somebody big. PSG. They beat them 3-0 in the second leg. That's outstanding. As I mentioned though, all the tactics or the links to where you'd find the creators using the tactics will be at the top of the description. Thank you very much to the creators as well for allowing me to share it with them. I know a couple of them actually sent me the tactic themselves. So yeah, I really do appreciate that. And yeah, hopefully you get some kickback from this from the guys watching this video. That's going to check you out because honestly, some great content going out there about tactics this year, especially the weird ones, because they're my favourite ones. I don't want a boring 4-2-3-1 that's going to dominate. I want some weird and wacky stuff that's going to produce results like this. If you've got more weird tactics, send me a message. Maybe we'll do a part 2, and why not check out this? Yeah, that's right. I took on the Pentagon Challenge. Here's episode 1.